rolling on StreamYard. So
All right,
whenever you're ready.
All right, everybody, welcome to BO Boys for, what is it, Wednesday, December 13th. Fuck it. It's a raw feed. Yeah, I said fuck it. We're live. I'm Clayton.
Yeah, I'm Pat.
Studio.
We're in a studio. Here's the deal, and this is why that intro sounds so clunky.
Don't call me out on the carpet.
No, you're on a car. You actually look down. You are standing on a carpet, and I will call you out on it.
This is true.
Clayton and I, we've had a couple of brewskis before this recording. You know, we had a company Christmas party. It was my company, and Clayton was also there. And we had some brewskis, had some tiny quiches, some brownies, some cheeses.
Not that kind of brownie.
No. Regular brownies, but more brewskis.
Yeah.
Cups of wine. So this is a boozy floozy Tuesday weekend preview that we're doing right now.
We're lubricated.
Yeah. So the BO Boys are fully lubricated, and we are here to talk the upcoming weekend of Friday, December 15th, aka Wonka weekend.
That's what it's going to be known as.
Yeah.
That's definitely what it's going to be known as. I think, we were talking about this previously. Obviously, we talked about it with Jeff Bach of Exhibitor Relations Co., the great Jeff Bach, when we talked about our holiday preview, our winter preview. And I think we all sort of agreed that this is Timothée Chalamet's coming out party.
Yes.
This is when he takes that step up to the next level.
Yes. I mean, it's an interesting box office career with him, because he had Dune in that fall of 2021, and it was a hit. And that was, remember, a day and date HBO Max at the time. HBO still existed. HBO Max was a thing, and Dune dropped on HBO Max and in theaters, and it still got to over $100 million. I think not far above that, right? It was maybe it made, I'm gonna just, before I look it up, did it make $111 million? I think that's what Dune made domestically back in 2021, and actually pretty much nailed it. It made $108 million.
Amazing.
That movie made another 280 outside the US. So that movie made 391. So Chalamet had a full on, he was the top liner, and that movie was a hit.
Okay. Zendaya. You can't give it all to Chalamet.
She's barely in the movie, though.
Barely in the movie, but she ain't barely on Twitter. She ain't barely, X. She ain't barely.
It was Instagram. Twitter then. It was Twitter then. Now it's Twitter X.
She is a huge star, and I think the mere fact that she shows up and shows face in that was a huge deal. And listen, that is not to diminish Chalamet, but Zendaya also was somebody who drove interest.
Yeah, she was. But listen, that was his movie. He hosted SNL promoting that movie famously, of course, on live national television. We can't stress this enough. Timothée Chalamet came out at the end of that SNL famously with the legendary hoodie in support of the Legendary Pictures production company.
Yes.
Standing out against the day and date release of Dune.
Yes.
So Chalamet was front and center on that. You look, though, at his other box office history. Now, he doesn't have anything else that I would say is comparable to Dune or Wonka in terms of a movie that could have been a big hit that he is the lead of. You look at, he's in stuff like Love the Coopers, Adderall Diaries. He's got a big part in Lady Bird, and that was a, for sure, independent hit. That movie made $48 million domestic. Otherwise,
Little Women.
And he's in Little Women. That's right. He's the male lead in Little Women, and that was $100 million hit. If you look at Timothée Chalamet's box office history, there's not a big swing and a miss.
Yes.
I would say. There's not a Dune or Wonka type project that failed. He just hasn't done very many of them.
No, and I think that is
Hot Summer Nights in July of 2018.
That was an A24 misfire.
Yeah.
A rare A24 misfire, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing in there.
But that disappeared so fast that
Right.
it did not damage his credibility at all.
Right. He had Rainy Day in New York, the Woody Allen film.
Yes.
And that, I'm looking at the box office. Can you guess the box office of Timothée Chalamet, Rainy Day in New York? What is the domestic box office of that film?
$111,000.
No, $2,744.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's all from your bank account.
Some of it is for me.
Okay.
Some of it is for me, but I can't say I paid the entire $2,700 that A Rainy Day in New York made in October 20. Wow, that came out in October 2020.
Yeah, I mean, it is COVID. I mean, you got to blame COVID.
Yeah.
That's definitely a COVID casualty.
Yes. Woody Allen's A Rainy Day in New York could have been a huge hit if it wasn't for COVID in 2020.
Absolutely.
So that's the thing. Like Chalamet's in stuff like French Dispatch. I mean, Bones and All. November 2022.
Yeah.
Is, I guess, the closest thing other than Dune and Wonka to where he's been front and center, the lead of a quote unquote big movie. And that movie only made $7.8 million. But also, it's a movie about teenage cannibals.
It's a hard sell.
It's a hard sell.
Here's the thing.
Tell me, Alec Baldwin. Here's the thing.
Thank you. Chalamet has not had the sort of misfires that someone like Tom Holland has had, right? When you look at Tom Holland's Spider-Man,
right?
You know, he has had Chaos Walking. He's had Cherry, which was an Apple film, that did not go to theaters. And then, you know, he has a mini series on Apple TV that nobody remembers, right?
Okay.
Chalamet is a guy who has kept himself special by being theatrical.
Okay.
He hasn't had an Apple Plus TV show. He hasn't had an Apple Plus movie that went nowhere, right? Hot Summer Nights, A24 movie, whatever. But the expectation with that is that that would have been a theatrical. I don't think he went into it being like, yeah, this is going to drop on PVOD.
Well, I mean, Holland's a tough one to use as a negative comparison because he's one of the few young stars that has opened movies. Obviously, it's mainly Spider-Man, but he did open, what was the video game adaptation? That
Uncharted.
He opened Uncharted.
But that was his only other.
Yeah. But I think here's a comparison. Timothée Chalamet has not had anywhere near the run of misfires that a Ryan Reynolds had.
Yes, before he broke.
Right. Like Chalamet hasn't been in R.I.P.D. That's he hasn't
Green Lantern.
Green Lantern. Chalamet has not had big studio. The only reason that this exists is to make money, and then it bombed. He hasn't had those, which is all to say, I think we're both guys who think Chalamet has movie star draw people into a theater potential.
Yes, absolutely. I think he's got the non-threatening vibes that a young Leo DiCaprio had.
Yes.
He's got the acting chops. And I think he has, from his SNL hosting duties, a good sense of humor about himself.
Yeah.
Which all are positive attributes.
Yeah. And the legendary hoodie famous event, I think that won the guys over. You know, because that was a ballsy move back in 2021 when he walked on live national television with that legendary hoodie to make that statement against Day and Date. And I think a lot of men, and you know, not just genderized here, but I think that's the audience he has had to win over. But I think a lot of men, like you're a guy who works in the soot mines.
Yeah.
And men who work in the soot mines respected that Chalamet came out there with the legendary hoodie.
Yeah.
And took that risk.
He stuck up for the people who made the film.
Yes.
Not the people who distributed the film.
Yes.
The people who made the film.
Yeah. So I think he has that potential to be a leading man who brings all audiences to theaters. And I mean, listen, Wonka is the biggest swing he's had because obviously Wonka is a big IP. It's been successful with other actors. But there is a world in which audiences fully reject this film. You know, Wonka is not, and especially a year like this where we've seen big IP that people reject.
Yes.
It's not a sure thing. And if this hits, I think a big part of it is because people wanted Chalamet in that part.
And I do think it can't be underestimated, the popularity of the Paddington movies, not necessarily at the box office, but as home viewers.
Mm-hmm.
The young people who were weaned on the Paddington movie and its sequel. Those movies are definitely movies that parents put on for very young kids who are now of age to go see a emerging heartthrob.
Yes.
In a movie directed by the same person who did these films. And I mean, I think like you were saying, like this is like 4-quadrant. I do think that this will get the young ladies, the young men,
the young people,
yeah, the older women, the older men, the older people.
Yeah.
And
so that's kind of this is maybe a 6-quadrant hit.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, you have to update it with the times.
Yes.
So
4-quadrant is maybe not the right nomenclature anymore. It should be 6-quadrant.
And I think 6-quadrant is like being conservative.
Yeah. Well, the thing is also up the quadrants because that's more box office. You get more box office dollars with 6 quadrants than 4 quadrants.
Absolutely.
So
yeah. There's no downside to it.
Yeah. It's inclusive and it brings in more money.
Mm-hmm.
So I think 6-quadrant is how we should go. So this film, Wonka, it is seemingly getting good reviews, and we're not critics, and critics aren't everything, and obviously you could have Jurassic Park movies or things like that get 15% on Rotten Tomatoes, and everyone's going to see it because they want to see the dinosaurs. But I do think Wonka's the type of movie that if this were bad, it would negatively affect the box office.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think with this sort of film, you do need those high scores because it as much as it is a franchise people know, or at least a character people know, there hasn't been when did the actual Wonka movie? I mean, that's way further back than I think I could even guess.
The original with Gene Wilder.
Not the original, but the Depp, the one that the last Wonka movie.
Okay, that I'm gonna guess is 2007. Let me look up right now. 2005.
Right. Okay, so that is like almost 20 years ago.
Right. So that was the Tim Burton Johnny Depp movie. So let's start off the bat. Is there any chance? Let's do a little guess. What do you think that the Tim Burton Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movie made in total domestically?
Wow, domestically.
Yeah. And what would you guess it opened up to? It opened July 15, 2005.
Summer movie. Oh. Did it open in the 60s?
It opened at 56 million. So very close. And it got to
300.
Domestically, it ended up at 206 million, made another 269 international, 475 million worldwide. So that was a blockbuster. That was sort of the height box office wise of Burton.
Yes.
You know, because it was him and Depp, and they did Alice in Wonderland, they did Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Not the height creatively, but definitely though people do like that Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movie.
Yeah, I mean,
he did the Michael Jackson impression.
Yes, that is a generation's Wonka. I mean, that not our generation's Wonka, because of course Gene Wilder, but I do think that was a definitive take for a while,
right?
For young people, and I think
there's a generation where their Wonka is Michael Jackson, and
I think there is an opening now for let's reclaim Wonka.
Yes.
Let's take Wonka away from the controversy because, listen, we're not going to step in it. Obviously, I'm not going to allow you to step in it. But
no, we just came from a company Christmas party. Of all days, I cannot step in it.
I'm so minding my P's and Q's right now, as everybody can notice. But, Depp, he has his issues. Michael Jackson had his issues.
Yep.
If there's
I don't know if any of their issues overlapped or if they ever met.
No, I mean, unless Depp was spending like thousands of dollars on wine and threw in a few, bottles of Jesus juice, I don't think there was any overlap there, but I think there's a opportunity to reclaim Wonka as an IP without the controversy.
Yes.
You get the Paddington guy, which I don't know about him. Could be a great guy, could be a monster, but we don't know enough about him to make a judgment. He's
has a good reputation.
Yes. And then Chalamet, who, of course, there's people online who are like, he was mean to me at a Starbucks. It's like, okay, that's fine.
I mean, he was probably rushing out of that place.
Yeah, exactly. Who wants to hang out in a Starbucks?
Well, that's the thing. I don't know if I believe any of those anecdotes, because would Chalamet even be in a Starbucks?
Exactly. I think he would be at a Blue Bottle, if anything.
Right.
So, yeah. But that's the kind of thing is like, his thing is like, you know, he's a rich kid or what. I mean, those are the controversies, which is whatever. Everybody in Hollywood is a rich kid. So that does not matter. So I do think there's he's not squeaky clean, but there's definitely a cleanness to him as a star right now. And for Wonka to come out now as like, we can enjoy Wonka without reservation.
Yes.
And I think that's important for a lot of people.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Chalamet doesn't. I just hope in these last couple of days before the movie opens, Chalamet doesn't say, oh, and actually my Wonka is based on me doing an impression of, and then he's like, actually, I'm doing R. Kelly or something like that.
Jeffrey Epstein as Wonka. Not that he would do that, and obviously, you know, it's a very serious topic, and I don't mean to, you know, make light of it. But
if Chalamet was basing his Wonka off of a Jeffrey Epstein impression, that I think would be, you've gotten this far, Chalamet, without saying that in public.
Yes.
Don't reveal that. Don't do an actor on actors where it's like Chalamet in conversation with, you know, Rowan Atkinson, who's in this movie.
Yeah.
And they're talking about their inspirations. And Rowan Atkinson is like, oh, I based Mr. Bean off of like King Henry or whoever he based Mr. Bean off of. And then Chalamet said, and I based my Wonka off of Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah. And I think is, even if that's the case, let your process be your process. I don't think we need to be as into the process as everybody tries to be nowadays. I mean, that is an issue that we have, obviously.
Yeah, leave some mystery.
Leave some mystery. Yeah, let the mystery be, as they say.
Yeah, so definitely that would affect the box office. We're only a few days out. Hopefully there's not a pre-recorded actor-on-actor interview with Chalamet and Mr. Bean where Chalamet reveals my Wonka is based on R. Kelly, my Wonka is based on Jeffrey Epstein.
Both, yeah, like equal parts.
Yeah.
They think that would be terrible.
That would be terrible because, this generation needs a squeaky clean. We could all root for this Wonka. Wonka. And I think so far, so good. We're a few days out. It is interesting how a couple of months ago, the tracking on this movie was in the 20s. And it looked like there was no way it could get anywhere near what the Tim Burton Charlie and the Chocolate Factory did in 2005. Tracking's gone up and up and up. I think the reviews have helped the tracking. I think the looking at December and sort of realizing something's got to be big.
Yes.
There's been some coalescing around, like, it's not going to be Aquaman, probably. It's not going to be, what else? Migration hasn't gotten, we'll get into that next week. It doesn't feel like that's going to be a Sing level Illumination movie. So something's got to be big.
Yeah.
And I think audiences are starting to look at, Wonka could be the big December movie.
Yes.
And maybe it is going to get near the Burton.
And again, I think that'd be great if it did, but also don't be upset if it doesn't.
Okay.
Because I do think that this can tend to happen, and it's you always want that big splashy number to open, right? Because that is great publicity to say, oh, this overperformed. But I think we've seen stuff like Puss in Boots, Last Wish, opening lower and then making an historic run. This feels to me like that's a possibility. It could happen.
This could very much be a Jumanji situation.
Yes.
The Rock, Jack Black, Kevin Hart version of Jumanji, which opened okay back in what? Was that a 2015?
I'm feeling 2015 because I think the sequel was 2017 or 18, right?
Right. So that I think is going to be a comp we need to keep in mind for Wonka. This is a mid-December opener. We're about a week or two away from that Christmas to New Year's week where just people are going to be going to see movies every day. Family films are going to do great. And I think Wonka, you're right. We got to calm the masses.
Yes.
Because if Wonka opens to 28 million this weekend, this could still be a giant hit.
Yeah, because it could then have a second weekend of 26.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, that's a possibility in this time frame, because Last Wish, Jumanji, both those movies, December movies.
So Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle came out December 20th, 2017.
Yep.
Clayton, can you guess what the opening weekend of that film was?
$9 million?
No, it's still a big movie.
$17 million.
36 million.
Jeez, okay.
So it opened at 36 million, ended up though making 404 million domestically.
Well, the
so it had a multiplier
was,
of 10.
What was the second weekend? 32?
The second weekend, I'm taking a look at that now, but I think you're going to be right in that it was basically no drop. Okay, first weekend 36 million, second weekend 50 million. So an increase with absolutely no theater change.
Yes, whoa.
So that all to say, December gives you some spectacular box office runs, and Wonka does feel poised to be that movie this year. It's not going to be the Illumination movie. It probably won't be Aquaman 2, although that could still end up doing okay. We'll talk about it in a few weeks.
Yeah.
Wonka feels like the movie that could be the real steady choice through that Christmas, New Year's week.
And not to bury another movie while we're celebrating, a different movie. I just, and we'll get to it when it comes, but I just feel like Aquaman's DOA. Like the more we talk about Wonka, the more I feel like nobody's going to want to see Aquaman. Like nobody.
Well, here it's interesting. They're both Warner Brothers movies, and Warner Brothers also has Color Purple opening, I think, Christmas Day. It does feel like Warner Brothers has put all of their chocolate in Wonka's basket.
They know.
Yeah. And if they know, then we've got to take that as a big hint. If Warner Brothers is basically betting on Wonka.
We've seen one trailer for Aquaman.
Yeah.
We've seen one trailer, one poor trailer.
Yeah.
Not a great trailer. And we've only seen one. And this movie is coming out in 3 weeks? Less than 3 weeks?
Less than 3 weeks. Yeah.
It is DOA, and they know it. It is dead in the water.
So as we look ahead, before we give our predictions for Aquaman opening weekend, I'm looking at the cast here. Tell me if you think anyone is going to help the box office in this cast. So obviously Chalamet, we do think he's a draw.
100%.
Yeah. Keegan-Michael Key as chief of police. Mean anything?
No. I mean, for me, a deterrent, but for most people, a shrug.
I mean, yeah, there are a couple of deterrents in here. Here's a deterrent, I think, for both of us. But I think he's one who I'm going to say is a deterrent who nobody knows, so it won't matter. Little Britain's Matt Lucas as Prodnose.
Yeah, I mean, if you know, you know, and if you know, you avoid. But most people know him for Bake Off at this point.
Okay.
For British Bake Off, because he was a co-host of that.
But he was dumped from that show, right?
He was, but I don't think people hated him. Like, I don't think they have the memories of us going to Comedy Central and being like, please be an SNL rerun or Kids in the Hall. And then Little Britain shows up and you're like, what? You know, and then you have to go over to Sports Center or whatever, MTV.
Right.
And so I think we hold that grudge. And I think there's not going to be a negative connotation with him as much as we carry. So I do think that it's a push. I mean, nobody's going to go to see the movie for him.
Right.
But I don't think there's going to be a mass avoidance of him.
Okay. I agree. I don't think Matt Lucas will keep people away, will affect the box office. So that's good for this movie. I mean, that's what you got to hope for when you end up casting Matt Lucas, is that he doesn't hurt your box office.
Yes.
Sally Hawkins is Willy Wonka's mother. I think it's not going to affect the box office, but I think this helps with the Paddington crowd, because it's a good reminder to the Paddington fans that, oh yeah, the Paddington director directed this.
Yep.
So I think in that sense, she helps the box office, because she will remind people about the Paddington factor.
Yes, I totally agree.
Here's someone who, and maybe this is our bias showing, Rowan Atkinson as Father Julius. I think he helps the box office. Do you think Johnny English has some juice still at the box office?
Johnny English has had more movies than you would remember. I think to a certain demographic, he does help. Absolutely. I mean, he's a comedy icon.
Yes.
I never watched Blackadder. I wasn't a huge Mr. Bean guy. Johnny English, respect him.
Yep.
Respect what he did. I think Natalie Imbruglia was in one of those movies.
Okay.
So gotta respect that. But yeah, I think of all the people you've mentioned so far, Sally Hawkins and him, those are value adds, but not like great value adds.
So here's last two people I'll mention that I think these could be great value adds.
Yeah.
Olivia Colman is in this movie as Mrs. Scrubbit.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oscar winner.
Yep.
And all around delight anytime she's in the public.
Yeah.
I think that is a definite plus.
I mean, I haven't seen her on the promotional trail, but like she's someone who would be great if you get her to make one or two appearances promoting this movie.
Yeah.
She's so great on television, so charming. And I think you got to use her on this final push is get Olivia Colman on something to promote this movie.
Listen.
You're going to, okay, wow, you're going to say it.
Eat the wings. Eat the wings. Dude, I would watch the heck out of that if Olivia Colman is eating those wings.
Yeah.
The reactions, the conversation, the non sequiturs.
Yep.
That is,
I think she'd be unflappable.
Entertainment.
Yeah.
That's entertainment.
I think Olivia Colman. I do think Olivia Colman could end up eating the wings.
Yeah.
I don't think she goes on Hot Ones to promote her role as Mrs. Scrubbit in Wonka.
All right.
I think a movie comes out where Olivia Colman is above the title. And she really wants that to be a hit for her.
Yeah.
I could definitely see her on Hot Ones. I don't think she would do it in this promotional cycle for this movie. Last name I'll throw out there, Hugh Grant as Lofty and Oompa Loompa.
Do you even have to ask? I mean, he has made the complete sort of transition from star, butts in the seats movie star.
Yes.
Because he was.
There is such 9 months. Yeah.
There is such a thing as a Hugh Grant movie.
Yes.
He is now one of the top value adds. I believe. I mean, of course, Samuel Jackson, number one value add.
Yep.
Woody Harrelson, I'd put in that too.
Yep. Michael Keaton, value add. Yeah.
I think Hugh Grant is reaching the peak of value add, which at that age, that is, I mean, if you're not De Niro or Denzel or Nicholson, if he ever comes back, or Tom Hanks, that is what you can aspire to.
Yes. Yeah, it's at a point when you get old enough, you got to be on Michael Caine.
Yes.
Be a value add.
Yes.
And yeah, I agree. Hugh Grant is really aging into that role really well. And I think now one thing about it is he did, I don't know if it was a misstep, but he did on the promotional trail mention that he hated being in this movie in the sense that, you know, a lot of makeup and the special effects, and he did it so you could buy a new house. I think with Hugh Grant, though, that stuff always just comes out as charming.
That's his thing now.
That's his thing.
That's his new thing.
He's like that the cute curmudgeon.
Cute curmudgeon, absolutely.
Yeah.
He goes on and he says how his face looks like a ball sack, and everybody's like, ha ha ha, it's true, but we also love you.
Yeah.
Like, I think that is his new thing. When he gets interviewed on the red carpet and he gives, you know, one-word answers to, you know, the ET reporters.
Yep.
People aren't like, he's a dick. They're like, oh, he's so charming.
He's so charming. Yeah.
That is his brand now.
If Timothée Chalamet on an actors on actor appearance were to admit that he based his Wonka on Divine Brown.
Oh, interesting.
Would that help the box office for this movie, hurt the box office, or it's a push?
I think that interview would probably have to ask, like, what were you thinking?
What were you thinking?
When you based your performance on Divine Brown. But yeah, Divine Brown is one of those names that I think only a few people remember, us being, paramount.
Right. But if you know,
we're top 2.
Yeah.
We're top 2 people who talk about Divine Brown daily.
Yes.
So
yeah, we have another podcast called Divine Brown Daily.
Yeah. So I think that it's not going to give a significant enough bump that you'll be able to really notice.
Okay.
I don't think.
Yeah, I agree, but it doesn't detract.
But I also would love to see that. I'm not an actor.
Right.
So
you're not allowed to be right now because you're a member in SAG and bad standing.
In bad standing, yes. So I mean,
so there are union.
I can act, but I can act only badly.
Yes.
I'm not able to act good.
Yes.
What I would normally do if I was fully paid up.
Yes.
Right now, it's all just bad acting. But even that, I mean, that's why Chalamet is a star and makes the big bucks, is that he can do a Willy Wonka based on Divine Brown, and it will make sense.
Yes, and would not detract from the box office. So pre-sales on this seem like they're pretty good. They've been trending up
overseas.
The other thing about this movie this week, overseas it opened.
It already opened,
and it's already made 44 million in its first weekend internationally. So that all seems positive. And the other big thing is it's going to be the IMAX movie this weekend.
Yes.
We've had a couple of weeks where nothing huge is open, Renaissance, a film by Beyonce, and Godzilla -1. Those have been the big movies that are probably like on IMAX screens.
Yes.
Wonka's going to get everything this weekend. It's going to get every PLF that it wants, that its heart desires. Wonka's going in there. So it's going to get the higher ticket prices. It's going to get the just people who want to go see whatever is in IMAX. Those people are going to go. So do we want to put a number out there for this movie?
Yeah. What is the tracking again?
The tracking is like 35 to 40.
Okay.
Which again has been up from 25 to 30 just a month ago.
Yeah.
So it really is, I'll throw these things out there. Is it going to go over the tracking? And if it does it have a shot at the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory 56 million?
I don't think it's going to hit 56.
Yeah.
I don't see that.
Yeah.
But I'm not upset about it, obviously. Like I said, I don't think that matters as much, because with the perceived quality of this movie and when it's opening, I don't think it needs to open to that to be a success. So I'm going to go under that.
Okay.
And I'm going to say, gosh, this is hard because it is, it's such a busy time. But we're seeing people are showing up. I mean, people went to see the Miyazaki movie.
Yep. Boy and the Heron made its $13 million last weekend.
And they went to see Godzilla -1.
Yep.
And they're still going to see Hunger Games.
Yep.
So there are people going to see films.
And people looking for family films.
I'm going to say 44.
Wow.
Is how I feel.
You know what? I mean, I'm kind of in that same range.
Right.
I'll say 42.
Okay.
I'm feeling a little bit more of the opening weekend might not be blow the doors off, but the legs on this are going to be fantastic. So I'm kind of in that same range. I think it gets over 40. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory in 2005 just was such an event because Depp was such a huge star.
Yes.
Burton was such a big name with those IP.
Yeah.
Summer movie. Opening weekends are bigger in the summer, even if the legs aren't.
Yeah.
So I think the same thing, 42. I have it in front of me last weekend's box office. I'll give a little top 5 prediction.
Cool.
It is kind of a mess when you look at the things that came out the last few weeks. You have no idea what the legs are going to be on Boy and the Heron or Godzilla -1 at this point. But I'll go, number one's got to be Wonka. I'm going to go 42.
That's a slam dunk, right? I mean, it's got to be a slam dunk.
That's a slam dunk. I think number 2 is going to be Hunger Games.
Okay.
Hunger Games made $9.2 million last weekend. I think it holds great again and makes like 7 million.
Mm-hmm.
That's number 2. I think that, yeah, I think I'm trying to decide between Boy and the Heron and Godzilla -1. I think Godzilla -1 actually has more momentum.
Uh-huh.
And I think there's going to be, that is still might be the action pick for a lot of guys this weekend. So I think number 3 is going to be Godzilla -1. Number 4 will be Boy and the Heron. And then number 5, it's such an interesting mix because will it be Trolls Band Together? I think it has to be because I think Renaissance, a film by Beyonce, is going to really fall off a cliff again.
That's dead, yeah.
And Wish is dead. Napoleon feels dead. Waitress the Musical was a 1-week Fathom event. So yeah, number 5 will be Trolls Band Together. I think that's the top 5.
Well, also, I think the Trolls audience is going to be served by Wonka.
They definitely are, but I don't think like Napoleon or Silent Night or any of these things near the bottom of the top 10 are going to have some kind of jump. Yeah, those are all dead. And I'm looking at, we're not really missing, I don't think, anything else opening this weekend. You know, you've got some limited openings, American Fiction, that kind of Zone of Interest.
Neither of those, I think, are going to make enough to get to the top 5.
No. So yeah, I think that is probably going to be the top 5. I think Trolls will be number 5.
I'm going to go a little bit, and I feel like this is just to be sort of mix it up a little bit.
Okay. Good radio.
Number 1, obviously, Wonka, Slam Doink. I think that's a Slam Doink.
Yeah, Doink of the Week.
Doink of the Week. Number 2, I'm going to go Godzilla -1.
Okay.
Just because I do feel like that has a lot of heat. Then Hunger Games.
Wow.
Then I do think Boy and the Heron.
Yep.
Because I do think that's going to have a big drop. But again, it's like the Beyonce move. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That thing could drop 80% and it's still a success.
Yeah.
Because it's all making its money overseas.
Yep.
We're gravy. We're gravy. And that's fine.
Yep.
Sometimes it's okay to be gravy. So that, and then I agree. I think Trolls is going to stay there in that top 5.
So yeah,
now. Do you think Trolls gets to 100? It feels like a Equalizer 3 situation where it's like it's not going to do it, and we wish it would do it, but I don't think it's gonna.
So it's at 82.9. It made 6 million last weekend. You figure it could make another 4 million or so this weekend. So at the end of the weekend, it could be at like 86, 87. You know, it really depends on how many theaters it has to shed for migration.
Yes. If it's, that is actually a huge deal.
Because it's still at, last weekend, it was in 3,400 theaters. It's going to lose a bunch because it's going into its 5th weekend. It probably loses a lot to Wonka. Then it loses a bunch of migration.
Yeah.
So I think that's what makes it tough.
And PVOD, it's gonna go to PVOD in the next few weeks, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think Trolls is the bad guy situation where it ends up in the low 90s.
But for a,
threequel,
and also it's one of the rare franchises that went theatrical, then PVOD, then back to theatrical, and succeeded.
Yeah.
So it shows that it's possible, but it's not optimal to do it. I don't think anybody really wants to go that trajectory.
Yeah.
But it does show that if a brand is strong, it can rebound from being relegated to PVOD. And for good reason, obviously, that was like height of COVID. I mean, that was
spring 2020.
Yeah. So there's no way you put that in the theaters at all. But I do think that it's a nice rebound, but also shows if you would have relegated it to PVOD, the amount of money you were going to make was going to be way less than now, because if it almost makes 100 million now theatrically, add so much more PVOD down the stream.
Yes. So we've got some emails.
Let's do it. Let's talk about these emails.
So we got an email a couple of weeks ago from Wanna Be Oh Boy Andrew.
Andrew, hello.
And this is in reference to us talking about Mean Girls. It was the winter preview episode. Jeff Bach. We're all very high on Mean Girls. That feels like probably the biggest movie of the January, February months. Potential to outdo the original, get to 100 million. We're all high on that movie.
Yes.
And we talked a lot about how there's the female audience where that's a generational IP for them. The male audience is going to be into Tina Fey.
Yes.
So you've got that audience there. And specifically, Andrew is calling out an audience that we maybe didn't mention, talk about Mean Girls. So the subject line of his email was, "Don't forget the gays." Says, "Big fan of the pod. I'm listening to your latest episode. You talk about Mean Girls having a big weekend. You're forgetting about one important theater-going group, the gays. Every single gay person in the USA is going to see this movie. Mean Girls is one of the biggest gay IPs out there. That adds up to a lot of BO dollars. The gays were also a huge part of the Barbie craze this summer, out in full force for Barbenheimer weekend." And this was before Beyonce came out. Beyonce as well could definitely thank gays and queer people for a few million of her $21 million debut. Megan too, big gay money out there. Love y'all. Wanna Be Oh Boy Andrew. So yeah, we never want to forget the gays.
No.
But we absolutely forgot the gays.
We did.
On that one. And I think the one he called out that is so dead on is the Megan comp.
Yes.
January movie, a lot of online sort of like gay, and kitschy, campy excitement about that movie.
Yes.
And I think he nailed it. Mean Girls is going to have that too.
The thing is, the gays are on the cutting edge of memeing movies positively.
Yes.
Where you've got the Reddit people making fun of Morbius.
Yes.
And they're not going to put their hard-earned money down to see Morbius. They're making fun of Morbius. They're, tearing it apart. They're, degrading it.
Yeah. And that's straight memers, you're saying.
Yes.
And of course, we're generalizing.
But
straight memers are meaner memers often.
Yes, but the queer and gay memers are like, this is awesome, even if there is kitsch to it.
Yes.
Right? Where Barbenheimer, you got to believe the first memes were done by the queer community. There's just like no way that's not the case.
Okay.
And then Beyonce, Taylor Swift, Mean Girls, obviously, all this stuff is going to be lovingly memed and poked fun at in a positive way. And they'll put their money where their mouth is and see these movies. We've seen this.
Yeah.
It happened.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, we were remiss.
Yes.
For not giving the gays their flowers.
Yeah.
And we're doing it now.
Yeah.
And thank you for that email.
Yes. Thank you for reminding us about the gays.
Yes.
Wanna Be Oh Boy Andrew. So when we get into the nitty gritty in January of the Mean Girls predictions, we will definitely bring in the gay community into those predictions for sure. So we got some more emails. We got one so we talked about the Golden Globes the other day on our last episode, mainly talking about the award for box office achievement and what a farce those nominees are. They didn't consult the BO boys, Scott Mendelson, Jeff Bach, the people who basically should have been put in a room to pick those nominees.
David Thompson,
of course. David Thompson gets in there.
In that room.
Yeah. You Wanna Be senior intern Christopher, Wanna Be junior intern Jack. They get to be in that room and take notes.
Take the minutes.
They take the minutes.
Yeah.
Lunch orders.
Yeah.
And get something for yourself, of course.
Of course.
But they were in the room. They're taking the lunch orders.
Bring the change, though. Bring the change.
Bring the change. Jeff Bach wants that change. And so we had Wanna Be Oh Boy, Jason, wrote in to talk about another Golden Globes category, animation. He says, you guys discussed the cinematic achievement category, but the animation selection was terrible. Wish made it, but Nimona didn't. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, ? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles did not get nominated.
Wow.
Hell, slap Paw Patrol in there. At least they had an aircraft carrier. Then he says, I'm being a little silly, but I'm not. Nimona was amazing. Animation fans are ticked. Something to keep an eye on as the show approaches. Stay frosty. Wannabe oh boy, Jason. So the one that I haven't seen Nimona.
It's a Netflix
movie. So we won't get into that. We haven't seen it. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles should be in that category because that way overperformed your expectations at the box office, made over $100 million.
Oh, I'll say it. I was Teen Titans Go to the Movies on that one. I thought that's what the ceiling for that was, and I was wrong.
You were wrong. That movie made over 100. It made over 100 in August during the strikes when Seth Rogen and that big name cast that they had could do no promotion.
Yeah.
That should get a best animated feature, and it didn't get at the Globes, but I think at the Oscars, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles should be in there because the box office run on that was fantastic.
And also, listen, box office is paramount. It's the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
But also, the animation was awesome.
Yeah, it was a good movie.
Really fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And Paw Patrol did well, so I think he's right. Slap Paw Patrol in there. At least they had an aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
So thank you, Jason.
Yeah, we'll take his word for that.
So yeah, those are some of the emails that. Here's one last email that I want to get to. So this is from Wannabe Oh Boy Zach, and the subject is wrestlers at the box office.
Yes.
He says, "B.O. Boys, I was wondering what kind of value add, if any, AEW World Champion MJF will be in the Iron Claw. Him being the company's clear #1 star, do you think that offers any sort of bump? Also, looking down the line in terms of WWE, do you think their #1 star Roman Reigns has any sort of future at the movies at the box office? So many fans just assume he'll be moving on to Hollywood. I don't see that. It's a given that he'll make it." So that's from Wannabe Boy Zach. Let's tackle the last one first. So
yeah,
wrestling star Roman Reigns was in the Hobbs and Shaw movie, the Fast and Furious spinoff, in pretty much a non-speaking role.
Yes. And at a time where pretty much everybody except for young kids despised him.
Yes. His character at that time was not very popular. He has since become very popular.
He's now our tribal chief.
He's a tribal chief. Acknowledge me. Clinton throwing his ones up. He's a much bigger star. I don't know. I agree. That is someone who's going to try and be a John Cena of The Rock. Obviously, The Rock is his template. Hobbs and Shaw, I think, was supposed to be his Mummy 2.
Mm-hmm.
And that obviously didn't happen. He wasn't ready for it yet. I think, listen, he's a good-looking big Samoan guy with long, greasy hair. So he's got the building blocks to be a movie star. He's obviously got a Jason Momoa look to him.
Yes.
I think it's possible. He's obviously not Dwayne The Rock Johnson, and we've had our issues with The Rock the last few years.
But
Black Adam was a bomb. I said that for weeks and weeks and weeks. He, of course, attacked us online by taking down one of our videos because we analyzed his Peacock interview on the Heart to Heart.
Yeah.
We've had our issues with The Rock. Still a generationally charismatic person.
Absolutely.
Roman Reigns, I would say, is not in that category. And
when you look at the success stories for wrestling to acting, you've got The Rock.
Yes.
Number one. By far. Cena.
Yep.
And then you have Dave Bautista, who's going to win an Oscar.
Yes.
So, but when you look at the casualties, the ones like in this era, right?
Yeah,
I'm not talking Hogan and stuff like that, because they did hokey movies and was in a Rocky movie, which is great, right?
Yeah.
But I'm talking about The Miz, Randy Orton, who attempted to have action star sort of films, right? Who else didn't? Did Jericho have any movies where he was the lead?
Jericho's been more of a character actor comedian. He's got Terrifier 3 coming up, so I think he's carved out a niche for himself as whatever he is. Yes. And he was great in the MacGruber movie.
Yes, he was great in that. Absolutely.
Yeah. But I think.
Oh, and I guess Big Show was in that too.
Yeah.
But they weren't holding a movie together.
Yeah.
And so that, I think the fact that we've had at least 3 wrestlers go from being WWE superstars to box office stars.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't, right now, I just don't see Roman being anything special enough for the general audience to gravitate towards him.
Right.
When they already have The Rock.
Right.
And I know they don't have similar personalities, but still, like, he's really going to have to show something and get a shot. But, like, who opens action movies? Statham?
Right.
Denzel when he wants to do an Equalizer?
The thing. Could he be a B action star to the extent that exists?
Could he be Gary Butler?
That would be such. I think that is such a high ceiling for him.
I mean, that's what I'm saying is who opens these? Statham, Gary Butler, Neeson to an extent, although he's probably on the wane.
Right.
Is there an opening for him in a theatrical? Is the question.
Right.
I mean, he could do PVOD movies till the cows come home.
But is there a world in which he is a movie star? I don't see it. I don't see it.
Yeah.
But the other part of that is, of course, and we'll talk more about this, I think, next week. The Iron Claw opens December 22nd. That movie is getting incredible buzz. I think it's got an outside shot of getting in the Oscar Best Picture 10, because I think it's not appearing on a lot of these precursor awards yet, but because people are just starting to see it.
Yeah.
And that's, of course, a wrestling movie, Von Erich family. We'll get into it next week. I do think that has a shot of being an indie hit and being an Oscar player. So Wannabe Oh Boy Zach brings up AEW, All Elite Wrestling star Maxwell Jacob Friedman is in the movie. He's also a producer of the movie. And what will that mean for the box office? I think we'll get into this more next week when we really talk Iron Claw.
Yeah.
The thing I've been hearing from some early screenings is that his character has been cut down a lot.
Okay.
He plays a more comedic character that I think they've cut the story in a way to not focus on that. So I don't know how much he will be able to bring his fans to the box office. But that is someone, if we're talking about wrestlers who could be movie stars, that's a guy who, if listeners haven't watched him, charismatic guy, very funny guy. I think that he has a John Cena type future as a comedic action star, wise guy actor.
Yes, I totally agree.
Yes. So we'll talk more Iron Claw predictions next week. But in terms of rest of the box office, I think Maxwell Jacob Friedman has a higher ceiling than Roman Reigns.
I'll tell you what, I went and saw Poor Things in the theater this past, what was it? I guess it was Thursday.
Okay.
That Iron Claw trailer played before it. Goosebumps.
Wow.
In the theater, that trailer is so moving, and I got so hyped for it. And you could feel it in the audience that there was hype for this movie.
Wow.
Some of them, it felt like the first time they had seen it, and you could tell they were like, "Oh, what is this?
What is this?"
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we'll talk more about that leading into the opening Iron Claw. I agree. I think that could be in the indie hit, even more than a Poor Things.
Yeah.
I think it's got potential for a higher ceiling than, Zone of Interest and, American Fiction. We'll see. But I think Iron Claw could be big. So we'll big at that level. So we'll talk about that next week. Clayton, we love getting those emails. So happy to go through a couple of recent emails. Email us, theboboyspodcast@gmail.com. Love having episodes and look at the breadth of subjects that we just covered thanks to these emails. Animation, gays, pro wrestlers becoming movie stars. Those are our listeners, just taking us to such varied directions. So the boboyspodcast@gmail.com. Of course, follow us on social media. We're on TikTok. We're on Twitter X. WannaBO senior intern Christopher, killing it with the clips, with the posts, with the witty remarks when he captions these videos. Guy's killing it there. So if you haven't followed us, TikTok, Twitter X, and of course, YouTube. We are YouTubers. All of our episodes go up on YouTube. The web exclusive, the After BOs, these are coming back. Maybe a little Christmas party as a After BO web exclusive. Why don't we do that, Clayton? Throwing that out there.
Oh, well, we have Jack on camera.
I mean, that's a party.
That's a party.
If anyone remembers Jack's interview, that's a party. So, yeah, maybe we'll do a little company. You know, we were at my company Christmas party today, but maybe we go to, you know, BOHQ and have a little holiday party there, and that could be a YouTube web exclusive. So subscribe if you haven't, because that might be coming. And of course, 5 stars on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah. Can I speak on this quickly?
Yes, speak on this.
You as fans have done such a great job of just reviewing your little butts off, but they've slowed down considerably. And listen, I know there's a lot of people, because we look at the numbers. There's a lot of people who haven't reviewed.
Oh, I mean, almost a very small percentage of listeners have actually reviewed the podcast on Apple Podcasts.
And listen, we know statistically that's the way it is with podcasts.
Right.
But you're special. Our Wanna BO girls, Wanna BO boys, Wanna BO people are special.
Yes.
And they go above and beyond. And so we're asking you to go above and beyond. And so this Christmas season, just go to Apple Podcasts. That's the only one that matters. We're not asking you, don't do stars on Spotify. If you want whatever.
Right. You don't have to log into Stitcher.
You don't have to log into Stitcher, huh? What we're asking, go on Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars and say, love the show, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
5 stars, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Something like that.
Yeah. We just got a review last week, a 5-star review, which is what we love, from user CC01123789. Love it.
Great.
What a personal backstory there must be to that username. So thank you, CC01123789, who said 5 stars, hashtag free Pat, love the show, hashtag wanna BO people.
Great.
So free Pat, it must have been
because you were sick.
I was sick, and then there were people who thought maybe I was actually a POW or, you know, kidnapped in a basement somewhere, prisoner style, whatever. So I'm glad that he or she or people thought enough to hashtag free Pat on a 5-star Apple review, because maybe that would have worked if I were captive.
Absolutely. You can write any old thing, because you could just smash the back of your hand onto the keyboard after you hit that 5 stars. Because it doesn't matter what you say. It just matters that there are letters there.
Yes.
So do that if you want to. 5 stars, smash the back of your hand on your keyboard and see what comes up, as long as it's not an expletive or anything like that.
If you accidentally smash your keyboard and it comes out an ethnic slur, then backspace, and just write, you know.
Yes.
Love the show, blah, blah, blah.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. So for the holiday season, we don't ask a lot. We don't ask anything.
No.
Right?
We give and give and give.
Yeah. So please give back.
Yes.
And give us 5 stars and a review. And
of course, Substack, if you haven't already, the BO Boys Substack is just 2 articles a week from Wanna BO junior intern Jack.
I'm starting to like this kid.
He is just...
This is bad news. I'm starting to like this kid. My heart, like the Grinch, is growing.
Wow.
Sizes.
What will be the multiplier on Clayton's heart this holiday season?
I don't know. This Jack's getting to me.
But he's writing these great articles. He's writing analysis of the weekend that came, previews of the upcoming weekend, personal stories. He wrote about his first time seeing The Amazing Spider-Man in theaters.
I think it was Amazing Spider-Man 2, right?
Amazing Spider-Man 2, and what that box office run meant to him. So you got to go to the BO Boys Substack. Great stuff happening there. Subscribe. Of course, Scott Mendelson's Substack. I mean, we don't get a taste of this. We are doing this because people need to know that Scott Mendelson has now a Substack. It's worth the subscription fee. This guy is writing up a storm there.
Yeah.
He's the legend. He's the icon. So subscribe to Scott Mendelson's Substack. And I think that's it, Clayton. I think we've done it.
I can't imagine anything left to be said. Except for, until next time, we'll smell you at the box office. Nailed it.